5 units. It was not until 550 BC, or thereabouts, that Pythagoras moved this knowledge out of the world of empirical fact into the world of what we should now call proof. That is, that he asked the question, how do such numbers follow from the fact that a right angle is what you turn 4 times to point the same way? His proof, we think, ran something like this. It's not the proof that stands in the school books. Put that there, move this into this position, move that into that position, and now we have constructed a square on the long side of the right angle triangle, the hypotenuse. Just so that we should know what is part of the area and what is not, I will fill in the area with that tile. I use tiles because all tile patterns in Rome, in the Orient, from now on, derive from this kind of wedding of mathematical relation to thought about nature. Now we have a square on the hypotenuse, and we can, of course, relate that by calculation to the squares on the 2 shorter sides. But we don't need any calculation. A small game, such as children and mathematicians play, will transpose that triangle there and this triangle here. And now we've constructed an L-shaped figure with the same area, of course, because made of the same pieces, whose size we can see at once in terms of the smaller sides of the triangle. Let me put that divider down. Then it's clear to you that there is now a square here on the shorter side of the triangle and a square here on the longer of the 2 sides enclosing the right angle. Pythagoras had proved that not just for the 3, 4, 5 triangle or any Babylonian triangle, but for every triangle, the square on that hypotenuse is equal to the square on here and the square on here, if and only if that angle is a right angle. To this day, that remains the most important single theorem in the whole of mathematics. That seems an extraordinary thing to say. But it's because it's the first time that the structure of nature is translated into numbers, and the exact fit of the numbers describes the exact laws that bind the universe. Pythagoras had proved the great theorem, he offered 100 oxen to the Muses in thanks for the inspiration. It's a gesture of pride and humility together, such as every scientist feels to this day when the numbers dovetail and say, this is part of the key to the structure of nature herself. Pythagoras was a philosopher and something of a religious figure to his followers as well. The fact is that there was in him something of that Asiatic influence which flows all through Greek culture. We tend to think of Greece as part of the West, but here, Samos, the edge of classical Greece, stands 1 mile from the coast of Asia Minor. From there, the thought that inspired Greece flowed and it flowed back to Asia in the centuries after, before ever it reached Western Europe. Knowledge makes prodigious journeys, and what seems to us a leap in time often turns out to be a long progression from place to place, from one city to another. The caravans carry with their merchandise the methods of trade of their countries, the weights and measures, the methods of reckoning. The mathematics of Pythagoras has not come to us directly. It fired the imagination of the Greeks, but the place where it was formed into an orderly system was the Nile city of Alexandria. The man who made the system and made it famous was Euclid, who probably took it to Alexandria around 300 BC. The impact of Euclid as a model of mathematical reasoning was immense and lasting. His book was translated and copied more than any other book except the Bible right into modern times. I was first taught mathematics by a man who still quoted the theorems by the numbers that Euclid gave them, and that was not uncommon even 50 years ago. The other science practiced in Alexandria in the centuries around the birth of Christ was astronomy. When the Bible says that 3 wise men followed a star to Bethlehem, there sounds in the story the echo of an age when wise men are stargazers. The secret of the heavens that wise men looked for in antiquity was read by a Greek called Ptolemy, working in Alexandria about 150 AD. His work came to Europe in Arabic texts. The moon revolved round the earth, obviously, and it seemed just as obvious to Ptolemy that the sun and the planets do the same. The ancients thought of the moon and the sun as planets. The Greeks had believed that the perfect form of motion is a circle, and so Ptolemy made the planets run on circles, or on circles running in their turn on other circles. To us, that seems both simple-minded and artificial. Yet in fact, the system was a beautiful and a workable invention, and an article of faith for Arabs and Christians right through the Middle Ages. Every so often, the spread of ideas demands a new impulse. The coming of Islam 600 years after Christ was the new, powerful impulse. It started as a local event, uncertain in its outcome. But once Muhammad conquered Mecca in 630 AD, it took the southern world by storm.